Καλησπέρα φίλοι, φίλες του gaming, gamers σε όλη την Ελλάδα και σε όλο τον κόσμο, ανάλογα που μας βλέπετε, δεν ξέρω που μας βλέπετε. Είμαι ο EverDuZk και παίζουμε ένα γαμάτο παιχνιδάκι, τουλάχιστον από ό,τι μου έχουν πει, το λεγόμενο Stanley Parable. Συγκεκριμένα είχε βγάλει και ο PewDiePie gameplay βίντεο, απλά είπα να μην το δω για να μην μου κάνει spoil, γιατί έχω ακούσει ότι είναι και γαμάτα παιχνίδια. Αυτή η οθόνη εδώ πέρα ωραία είναι, τέλος πάντων. Ουσιαστικά είναι κάτι σαν puzzle game. Τώρα το τι γίνεται μέσα σε αυτό το παιχνίδι δεν ξέρω. Πάμε να παίξουμε να μάθουμε. Loading.
This is the story of a man named Stanley.
Ακριβώς αυτό.
Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy.
Okay. Μου θυμίζει Έλληνα δημόσιο υπάλληλο.
Something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget.
Okay.
He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
Ωραία, παίζουμε. Λοιπόν, τα controls νομίζω ότι είναι τα κλασικά με το ε, με το F δεν ξέρω πως είναι ρυθμισμένο, μισό λεπτό. Options, keyboard, edit keys, action, use items, buttons, machines. Με το mouse γίνεται η δουλειά. Ουσιαστικά πρέπει να βγούμε εδώ έξω.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Ποιος το κάνει? Πάμε για meeting τώρα.
No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
Ας τα κλείνουμε να μην γίνει και ρεύμα. Είναι και πάλι μηχανήματα αυτά και είναι τα κέρατά τους. Όχι, τα καινούρια δεν καίνε, αλλά ναι. Τουλάχιστον όχι τόσο. Ουσιαστικά... Όπα, τι είναι αυτό? Be my... Όπα, μπράβο. Τι είναι αυτό? Username access. Οκ, αυτό θα το έχω υπόψη μου. Φαν λογικά θα λέει αυτή η κούπα. Τέλος πάντων. Πάμε εδώ πέρα. Εντάξει είμαστε.
Stanley went around touching every little thing in the office, but it didn't make a single difference, nor did it advance the story in any way.
Γιατί κάτι μου λέει ότι είναι παγίδα όλα αυτά. Δεν ανοίγει τίποτα. I hate Mondays. Εννοείται όλοι τις μισούν τις Δευτέρες. Όχι. Ποιος το ρίξε κάτω? Τι ηλίθιος. Το πω εδώ. Από εδώ έχει κάτι.
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Πάμε από τη δεξιά.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
Πού είναι το employee lounge? Τα από εδώ. Εδώ πέρα κάποιος τα έκανε άνω κάτω, τέλος πάντων.
Yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room. Stanley simply stood here.
Ουσιαστικά το παιχνίδι είναι puzzle, δηλαδή πρέπει να κάνετε κάποιες επιλογές. Τώρα η κάθε επιλογή θα αλλάξει ανάλογα την πορεία του παιχνιδιού. Δεν ξέρω πώς γίνεται αυτό ενώ...
Really, really worth it being here in the room. A room so utterly captivating that even though all your co-workers have mysteriously vanished,
εντάξει, όλοι οι πίνακες σχεδόν εκτός από τούτον και τούτον είναι ολόιδοι και τούτον. Έχει και μια ωραία καφετιέρα εδώ πέρα. Τι καφέ βάζουν, για κόψα ρε.
But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Να πάω. Να πάω ευθεία. Question, not lie if you're lying. Right now, stop. Τι stop.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't 5 years ago.
Ωραίο παιχνίδι, έχει ωραίο χιούμορ. Εδώ πέρα τι είναι, ουσιαστικά εταιρεία... Τι εταιρεία είναι? Έχει κάποιο είδος με... Έχει κάποια σχέση με είδη συσκευασίας, κάτι τέτοιο. Έκλεισε και από εδώ. Warning, do not jump from the cargo lift while it is in motion. Will cause death. Penalty for misuse of cargo lift 1000. Penalty for jumping of the cargo lift 5000 συν τη ζωή σου.
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here.
Έλα ρε, τι μας λες?
Really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. Please, stop trying to make every decision by yourself.
Φίλε μου, πάντα το κεφάλι μου κάνει.
For me, I'm asking for her.
For her? Λέγε ρε, τι έκανες με την κοπέλα μου, λέγε. 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 Λέγε ρε, τι της έκανες, εδώ μέσα είναι. Εδώ μέσα είναι, πώς πηδάω. Γαμώ το. Της έκανες κάτι ρε. Είναι εδώ. Πού είσαι? Πού είσαι? Εδώ είναι. Να δούμε εδώ πέρα. Γιατί δεν μου αρέσει αυτό. Jump scare. Oh.
That's her, Stan. You need to be the one to
Amo το σπίτι σου, μαλάκα. Ναι. Τι στο...
Oh, Stanley, is that you? Hold on, sweetie. Sorry to keep you waiting. I'm just pulling the bread out of the oven. All right. Okay, there we go. All right, now, I want you to come in and tell me all about your day.
Τι στο...
Gotcha. Oh, come on.
Τι
Did you actually
στο...
think you had a loving wife? They'd want to commit their life to you. I'm trying to make a point here, Stanley. I'm trying to get you to see something. Come inside. Let me show you what's really going on here.
Τέλειωνε πάλι, μαλάκα.
This is a very sad story about the death of a man named Stanley.
Και boom. Ωχ. Γιατί κάτι μου λέει ότι άμα το πατήσω θα γίνει της τρελής.
Stanley is quite a boring fellow. He has a job that demands nothing of him, and every button that he pushes is a reminder of the inconsequential nature of his existence. Look at him there, pushing buttons, doing exactly what he's told to do. Now he's pushing a button. Now he's eating lunch. Now he's going home.
Αυτός με κατασκοπεύει, βλέπει ότι πάω στο ψυγείο.
One might even feel sorry for him, except that he's chosen this life.
Θα το πατήσω, ρε. Να το πιάνω, αλλά είναι τα κοντρόλ, βάς και μπορείς να φύγει από μέσα. Έχει jump. Κρίμα δεν έχει.
But But in his mind, he can go on fantastic adventures. From behind his desk, Stanley dreamed of wild expeditions into the unknown. Fantastic discoveries. It was wonderful. And each day that he returned to work was a reminder that none of it would ever happen to him. And so he began to fantasize about his own job. First, he imagined that one day while at work, he stepped up from his desk to realize that all of his co-workers, his boss, everyone in the building had suddenly vanished off the face of the earth. The thought excited him terribly. So, he went further. He imagined that he came to 2 open doors and that he could go through either. At last, choice. It barely even mattered what lay behind each door. The mere thought that his decisions would mean something was almost too wonderful to behold. As he wandered through this fantasy world, he began to fill it with many possible paths and destinations. Down one path lay an enormous round with monitors and mind controls. And down another was a yellow line that weaved in many directions. And down another was a game with a baby. And he called it the Stanley Parable. It was such a wonderful fantasy, and so in his head he relived it again, and then again, and again, over and over, wishing beyond hope that it would never end, that he might always feel this free. Surely there's an answer down some new path, mustn't there be? Perhaps if he played just one more time. But there is no answer. How could there possibly be? In reality, all he's doing is pushing the same buttons he always has. Nothing has changed. The longer he spends here, the more invested he gets, the more he forgets which life is the real. And I'm trying to tell him this, that in this world he can never be anything but an observer, that as long as he remains here, he's slowly killing himself. But he won't listen to me. He won't stop. Here, watch this. Stanley, the next time the screen asks you to push a button, do not do it. You see? Can he just not hear me? How can I tell him in a way that he'll understand that every second he remains here, he's electing to kill himself? How can I get him to see what I see? How can I make him look at himself?
Το παιχνίδι αυτό έχει αρκετό mindfuck μέσα.
I suppose I can't, not in the way I want him to. But I don't make the rules. I simply play to my intended purpose, the same as Stanley. We're not so different, I suppose. I'll try once more to convey all this to him. I'm compelled to. I must. Perhaps, well, maybe this time he'll see. Maybe this time. And I tried again, and Stanley pushed a button. And I tried again, and Stanley pushed a button. And I tried.
Τι στο jumpscare. Δεν μου αρέσει η ατμόσφαιρα. Δεν ξέρω αν καταλάβατε τι έγινε και τι πρόκειται να γίνει, αλλά εγώ δεν κατάλαβα σχεδόν τίποτα. Εντάξει, απλά είναι ένας τύπος, δεν έχει ζωή, κάθεται σε ένα γραφείο όλη μέρα, πατάει κουμπιά. Δεν γίνεται κάτι τόσο συγκεκριμένο. Πάμε την αρχή λίγο. Αυτή τη φορά θα ακολουθήσω τις οδηγίες που μου ζητάει αυτός ο τύπος.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Μπήκε στην αριστερή πόρτα. Ωραία, με τι αποτέλεσμα?
Yet there was not a single person here either.
Tips for not getting fired. Talk less, do unbelievably amazing work all the time every day with no... Έλα ρε φίλε. Listen co-workers from upon humor. Let it ball up inside you. Take out passive aggressively on other co-workers. Σωστό. Using slides to assure employees that everything is okay. Make sure a slide has a slick blue graphic in the header and throw some bevel on all the text. This will ensure... Έλα ρε φίλε. Everyone is unique, you most of all. Ναι, λογικό είναι. Αυτό είναι ίσως η πιο σωστή διαφάνεια από όλες. Δεν έχει άλλες. Slides. Τι ηλίθιο. Τι ηλίθιο. Και τι γαμάτο παράλληλα. Rate at which charts on the same slide depicts the same information. Market report charts numbers. Rate of increasing graphs per slide. Τι στο. Please no more. On your boss person. Τι στο πούτς. Πραγματικά τι είναι αυτό. Solving interpersonal conflict. If you ever find yourself in a conflict with another diligent employee like yourself, but more inclined towards conflicting unless... Έλα ρε φίλε. What are your dreams for the future? Talk radio, mythos, charts, a boat, plant life, transcend, nature, success, football, lunch, travel, metamorphosis, comatose, less air. Tips for not getting fired, talk less, do unbelievably... Τόσο πάνω είναι τα ίδια. Don't get fired. Ειδικά το τελευταίο. Αυτό το παιχνίδι δεν ξέρω, από τη μία είναι, έχει πολύ mindfuck, αλλά από την άλλη είναι γαμάτο. Buy quarterly post review. Τι? To synergize core value expenditures, shift global market paradigm, monetize free to... Σωστό, στο τελευταίο ειδικά είναι γαμάτο. Οκ, τι άλλο έχει εδώ. Targets, push for funding R plus D of new coffee. Get Chris out of the broom closet. Hire someone to synergize papers. Papers are too synergized. Fire paper. Hire somebody to fire the paper synergizing guy. Who moved my desk? Please keep the targets on the topic of Swisman. Not cost efficient. Standard. Okay. The future was yesterday. Tomorrow is now. Tomorrow, complete today's unfinished agenda items. Write next day's agenda. Reflect. Employee. Gym. Στο τέλος. Είχε αρκετό, αν όχι πολύ mindfuck. Broom closet. Όχι, γιατί και του μου λέει ότι θα πάγει αυτό άμα μπω εδώ μέσα. Όσο κάνω.
Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track.
Δεν έχει πραγματικά κάτι εδώ μέσα. Δεν μπορώ και να επιδείξω.
There was nothing here. No choice to make, no path to follow. Just an empty broom closet. No reason to still be here.
Θα κάτσω εδώ μέσα, ρε, να δω τι θα μου κάνει ο άλλος.
It was baffling that Stanley was still just sitting in the broom closet. He wasn't even doing anything. At least if there was something to interact with, he'd be justified in some way. As it is, he's literally just standing there doing sweet FA.
Τι στο... Παγίδα ήταν.
Are you really still in the broom closet? Standing around doing
Ναι ρε,
nothing?
είμαι.
Why? Please offer me some explanation here. I'm genuinely confused.
Είσαι μαλάκας φίλος. Λοιπόν... Θα περιμένω λίγο ακόμα, να δω τι άλλο θα μου
You
πει.
do realize there's no choice or anything in here, right? If I'd said Stanley walked past the broom closet, at least you would have had a reason for exploring it to find out. But it didn't even occur to me because literally this closet is of absolutely no significance to the story whatsoever. I never would have thought to mention it.
Συνεχίζουμε.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Πάμε κάτω. Κλειστομένα. Οχ. Κάτι δεν μου αρέσει εδώ. Κάτι μου λέει ότι μπορεί να φάω και άλλο jump scare. Λοιπόν, Τζερόνιμο!
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He
Ήταν
considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished. His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all.
Δεν ξέρω κατά πόσο είναι σωστές ώρες όλες αυτές ή αν είναι μέσα στο
And as
παιχνίδι
Stanley
απλά.
pondered this, he began to make other strange observations.
Όπως?
For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went?
Έχει πολλή
And for that
ηρωνία
matter,
μέσα.
these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming, he yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay.
Πες μου ότι περίμενα όλη αυτή την ώρα για πολύ τίποτα.
Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black.
Κάτι μου λέει ότι ψόφισε. Έλα.
This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments, she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real, and what isn't.
Okay.
It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day, the very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
Okay. What the fuck? Δεν ξέρω κατά πόσο μπορεί να κάνω σειρά από αυτό το παιχνίδι. Είναι πραγματικά τέλειο. Τέλος πάντων, θα κάνω λογικά και άλλα επεισόδια. Δεν ξέρω πόσα. Τέλος πάντων, εδώ θα σας αφήσω. Ήμουνα ο Kirk12, αλλιώς γνωστός ως EverDuZk, εκ μέρους της GFL. Θα το πούμε την επόμενη φορά. Κάντε like, subscribe, favorite κλπ. Comment άμα σας αρέσει το βίντεο. Και θα τα πούμε την επόμενη φορά. Καλό σας μεσημέρι. Ή αλλιώς βράδυ, ή αλλιώς Πάσχα, ή αλλιώς Χριστούγεννα, ή όποτε το βλέπετε το βίντεο. Γεια σας.